Well, another intro in and another Formula One race down. Welcome to the next installment of the Top Step with
Rhyss and
Stu. We could probably coordinate that a little bit better, but of course,
no, of course
back
not.
for another episode after an amazing race overnight or this morning, wherever it is that you are. We've got plenty to talk about. The penultimate round of the Formula One World Championship has concluded. And it was an interesting weekend with plenty of mistakes, mate.
What a weekend it was.
One big, ginormous mistake that we need to talk about. Let's get things kicked off. We're going to get straight into it tonight with the usual way that we get things kicked off. Of course, cracking open a can of
Mother's milk.
Mate, it was a very, very, very interesting weekend, dominated by a team that didn't win a race. Well, they did. They won one race, but it was the sprint race. But didn't win the main race. And, of course, we talk about McLaren. There's some very weird things flying around on the internet about that, a couple of theories that you're going to take us into this evening.
Yeah, definitely some Ferrari-esque strategies that we haven't seen from McLaren. We always sort of talk about, other than some pit stop errors, we often talk about their strategies and things like that coming to fruition and working the way that they want them to. This weekend was not one of those.
We did say last week that this is right up Red Bull's alley, games where games be played. And it's fair to say that not only did they bring the pitch, the ball, the goals, and most of the teams, they also brought the rulebook with them and well and truly played McLaren this week. And so we'll dive into that in a moment. As usual, look, we don't pay a lot of attention to the sprint races, but important to have a little bit of a look at it as a result of the impact that it had on the overall drivers' standings, of course. The key here, the points everyone is looking at, because it's going to come down to every single one.
Absolute wire.
Being very, very important. We'll have a quick look through. We won't cover in detail the actual qualifying and stuff for the sprint race, other than to touch on one thing, which is, did Lewis Hamilton actually go to Qatar at all this weekend? Rumour has it that he didn't even show up. But outside of that, of course, Oscar, a dominant performance back into form. One might say that potentially this is indicative of whatever it is that they changed in the car that got them at the double DQ, that they might have fixed that, and let's put the car back into Piastri's style.
And it does lead to the question as well as to how long it potentially was running that setup for, and if it was only apparent at Vegas because of the track surface itself. So there's a few questions there should be asked, because we said unless something wild was going on, there's no way that Piastri's just turned off in the way that we saw him do that. So it will be. Not that we will ever know now, but it would be interesting to see if the changes that they made and reverted back to was the before Piastri's drop of form as such.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't quote Josh Verstappen because if I do, I might misquote him and end up being dropped off at a petrol station in the middle of nowhere. But I do remember him or somebody similar to him saying it's not like he's lost his talent. The car, there's something wrong with the car. And it kind of, we've heard this before. There's something wrong with the car. There's something wrong with the car from a driver who's going to be driving for Cadillac next year. Of course, Sergio Perez saying yonks ago that the Red Bull car, there was an issue with it. And then finally that issue caught up with Max, of course, before the demise of Christian Horner. So, there's every chance that that's absolutely the case. And, it's fallen back in Oscar's favour this weekend because he had a fantastic weekend overall, outside of course, what happened in the feature race. Dominated, qualifying, dominated, and led the sprint race from start to finish. George Russell coming home in second.
We said this last week. He's just there.
another Russell-esque performance, just quietly sliding around the track. Lando Norris in third with Max Verstappen in fourth, Yuki Tsunoda in fifth. And then after that, you had Antonelli, Alonso, and Carlos Sainz bringing home the points. Carlos with points in both races this weekend. He had a really, really good weekend to continue his run of form in that car. Then we move into qualifying. Now, there was a little bit of a hiccup here. I read some stuff, not diving down into the depths that you dove down into. A exit stage right from Lando Norris into pit lane to avoid giving a tow to Oscar Piastri during, I believe it was Q2, or it might have been the early stages of Q3. And it ended up being Isaac Hadjar that he got a little bit behind. Now, we know at Qatar, it's obviously a very, very high-speed track, and aero wash, or the aero lift on the front of a car from a car in front of it, is quite impactful. So what did you hear that one? Did you see it?
This is news to me, actually. I hadn't heard this one. So you can take the lead on that. I'm not surprised at this point of the championship. I'm not surprised at all that the gloves are off in that aspect. But no, not something that I came across my desk.
We also didn't mention the commentary around Oscar being asked by McLaren to help this weekend, and he said, "Not on your life. You've got to be kidding. There is no chance that I'm going to help Lando win the title." I think it is extraordinarily cheeky of McLaren to even ask that of Oscar at all.
In the words of Max Verstappen, Max's response to that was that he just wouldn't show up, and I feel like that is absolutely fair when it's still a three-way title fight, and now we're going into Abu Dhabi, and it's still a three-way title fight. There is only one, and we'll touch base on this a little bit further later on in the show, but there's only one real place that I can see this question being asked, and that is when, well, I think we may see it, when Oscar might be in second or third and can't win the championship and Lando's behind him, that they do a driver swap then so Lando can secure it because Oscar's out of contention. So if Max is leading, for example. So I feel like then I think we're going to see that question be asked again, because at that point, Oscar's no longer fighting for the championship if Lando is right behind him in third place or in fourth place even.
Hold that thought, because we will touch on that when we look at how it is that whatever the machinations are of whom can win and how they win when we get towards the tail end of the show. So stick around for that. George Russell qualifying in fourth, Antonelli in fifth. So they had a really good qualifying session. Hadjar up into sixth, Carlos Sainz in seventh again in the Williams. He sort of sorted himself out. Took a little bit longer than he suggested, I think, but he's had a couple of really impressive rounds. Fernando Alonso in eighth, Gasly in ninth, lost and somehow managed to get into ninth. And then Charles Leclerc fighting at that Ferrari into P10. Again, I heard that one of the actual Ferraris was at the track over the weekend, and a terrible one for a descendant of the godfather of Formula One to turn up at the track, because they had an absolute shocker.
It's
weekend.
It's just the car and the team at this point, and there's nothing else that I even really need to say.
I really want to understand how Yuki Tsunoda goes from out-qualifying Max Verstappen in the sprint race to qualifying in 16th in the main race. Like, what did they change on his car?
I don't know.
It didn't suddenly get wet, but he will be able to add to his CV, which I believe will conclude this season, that he out-qualified Lewis Hamilton. So that's quite an achievement.
Out-qualifying Max too, which is a phenomenal thing, and not many people can say in the same machinery they have out-qualified Max.
Let's be fair, an aberration in Max Verstappen's CV. Albeit, to his credit, he did congratulate him for a strong result in the sprint race where they brought home double points. So is it still Max Verstappen Red Bull Racing, or is it now the Red Bull Racing team again, because there's been, more than 3% of the team's total points taken actually attributed to both drivers?
No, absolutely not. You can't jump on Jordan's team right at the right at the end there, score a point, and then claim that you had an influence on it. It's not how that works.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So, and then obviously it brings us to the race. Now, we'll get to lap 7 in a minute. The first question that I have for you, and it didn't really dawn on me until I was watching the race, the 25 lap tyre maximum, good or bad?
At Qatar, good.
So, why?
Well,
barring the outcome of the race, barring what happened.
I was going to say, as we saw, the two pit stop strategy and all that sort of stuff was brought into play to increase the team and increase the way that the strategies that they do use and the fallover of that. And we did see that. So I think it works for some excitement.
But why only at Qatar?
It's just a high speed. Generally, there's a lot of runoff area, so we did see a safety car. There's generally a lot of runoff area, so we don't usually see the sort of shenanigans that we did this weekend anyway. So it's sort of like a widespread Monaco.
So predicated, I understand it, on Pirelli saying that the tyre wouldn't last any longer than that, and we did see a puncture towards the end of the race for Isaac Hadjar. So I'm not sure if it was wear life, and I think it was conservative wear life is the reason that they actually implemented it. But
I guess the temperature, but I suppose you'd think Vegas in terms of temp and Abu Dhabi in terms of temperature as well. So
and also because of the abrasive nature of the curbs, you would have heard them during the race. You could actually literally hear the cars riding over the curves where you normally can't. They're quite I think they call it's like a saber curb rather than a standard or a rumble curve rather than a standard ripple strip. So I know that had an impact on it as well. But I just mean if none of that stuff was an issue, is the 25 lap maximum a good or a bad thing? Like, is that a solution to a Monaco where they just implemented a minimum number of stops, not a maximum lap limit on the tyre? Would it shake up, say, like a Singapore or somewhere else where throughout the season we've seen some pretty dull racing? Or does it, aside of the safety car that we had, which fell on exactly the right lap, would it have made it more interesting if, the safety car had to come in on lap 14 or 15 where you can't get two lots of 25 dead even out of the tyre?
No, I absolutely understand. But, in terms of consistency, we know the FIA, that's not the FIA's strong suit. So let's just throw a couple of changes in at a couple of different tracks and see what happens, I guess. I don't understand what you're saying, but I think it worked here. I don't know why. Thinking about that now, like you think about Singapore and things like that, I think other than the monsoon rain that we usually get at Singapore, that kind of keeps things a little bit interesting. Yeah, it did work this race though.
Yeah, definitely. The jury's out, I guess, terms of...
You sound definitely reserved.
Yeah, in terms of it being a race rule as opposed to a safety rule, which I think is exactly what it was for this weekend. It was a safety rule. But if it was a race rule, if it was something that they threw in, or even in a sprint, like you've got to take a pit stop, like just something to try and get some unusual results. The pit stops are so, as we saw, so routine now. Like there is some small variations in them, but I just
2 second variations within the same team,
coincidentally within the same team. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to get your opinion on it. So anyway, so as far as the race goes, in terms of race results, Max Verstappen taking out the win. Yeah, a dominant performance for him. He was tootling around at the end, just managing his race. He got told he could push harder and harder and do what he did. Oscar Piastri coming home in second. He made a different strategy call to Lando, which was always going to be very, very tough to execute. I think at one stage that he had to do a lap better than Max Verstappen on a decent tyre to try and bridge that gap. Carlos Sainz coming home in third. Fantastic performance for him.
And securing Williams in P5 in the team standings as well.
Can I ask what you thought? And again, I'm hoping that you heard you can tell we don't brief a lot beforehand. We literally try not to talk about it because we would do a whole show talking about the race before we actually do the show. Did you see the radio transcript towards the end of the race where he was encouraging Williams to let him push to try and keep third. And in my mind, and obviously we don't know the full background. We don't know if there's maybe an issue with the car or if they'll manage something. And he did say he went off or he lost an end plate or he started getting some understeer and he was struggling. But in what world is Williams not going to be like, Carlos, absolutely push for third? Just don't lose it by coming off the track or something so that we can take any chances that come our way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't know what world they would be like, nah.
To manage it. Because they were keeping pace with the McLaren.
Unless the car was overheating, that's the only real thing that comes to mind. Like, unless the car was overheating and he had to keep it at a certain rev range or short shifting and things like that to sort of keep the temps at bay. It's the only thing, and I guess pleading to do so the car doesn't blow up is probably a good thing. Like a finish is better than a DNF. So maybe something sinister like that was happening, but again, we didn't have that information.
Lando Norris coming through in fourth. He was closing in on Carlos, but not quite able to get the job done. Kimi Antonelli in fifth. Some controversy around that. With George Russell in sixth. Fernando Alonso seventh. Charles Leclerc coming home in eighth in that pig of a Ferrari. Liam Lawson getting into ninth. And Yuki Tsunoda coming home in 10th after starting in 17th.
Double points weekend for
absolutely
Yuki.
A solid result for him, and I think probably his best points haul all year for a weekend, even where he finished in the sprint. It might be kind of right. We'll just check that one out.
Roll it.
Alexander Albon just outside the points. He continues with his struggles. Lewis Hamilton getting up into 12th, not as impressive as it sounds with 4 DNFs of drivers in front of him. Gabriele Bortoletto in 13th. Sorry, mate, Lewis Hamilton.
It's not impressive at all with 4 DNFs and he's got the cars like Haas, Alpine, and there's Kick Sauber behind him, and he's in a Ferrari. Like,
Well, and let's be fair, like the Sauber's got the same motor as he does.
Yeah.
So does the Haas.
Yeah. The Haas is the lead Ferrari team now.
So he's not really. Maybe it's in the motor. I mean, you'd say that until you look down the list and see that Lance Stroll is in 17th. So he did DNF as well, of course. But Bortoletto, disappointing weekend for him. Of course, he had that 5-place grid penalty after annihilating Lance Stroll in Las Vegas. Franco Colapinto in 14th, just celebrating his contract extension. And Esteban Ocon 15th with Pierre Gasly in 16th, reuniting himself with the true form I believe he holds. 17th, Isaac Hadjar 18th. He had a frustrating weekend. He was it him? No, it was Ollie Beerman who was not classified DNF, drove off with the jack on the back of the car still, or partly under the back of the car still from a pit stop. That's one thing we haven't actually seen is too many pit stop mistakes from Haas this season. So
not like that. No. Like, yeah.
And your man Nico just helping our man in the only way he knows how. Thank you, Nico. But the Red Bull seat, as we believe, is full. So you can stop now. You can stop.
Racing. He might be there for racing wheels. We're not sure yet. Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll be more than happy.
Rocking through while we go to the team standings. We'll have a look at driver standings, and then we'll get straight into Rhys Raikkonen, because that's probably why most of you are hanging around. Of course, McLaren 800 points. Still absolutely miles out in front, as they almost deserve to be. Mercedes-Benz 459, Red Bull 426. So again, that strength of having 2 drivers finishing the points, just bearing fruit. So I can't see Mercedes being knocked off from second, albeit it is still possible. Ferrari in third, Ferrari in fourth, Williams in fifth, Racing Bulls in sixth, as Rhys pointed out. Now Williams not able to be knocked out of fifth. That is a huge turnaround in form.
Massive.
Racing Bulls 92 in sixth, Aston Martin on 80 in seventh. So that still hasn't finished. And Aston Martin actually moved up over Haas after their terrible weekend in eighth on 73. Kick Sauber on 68 in ninth. And you've got Alpine well and truly confirmed as the relegated team for the year. Interesting battle still around 6 through 9.
Yep, absolutely. And if we're seeing, like, Sauber had a no points weekend and one DNF, and Haas had a double DNF or a no points and a DNF.
Outside the points, yep.
Yep. Anything can happen. If Kick Sauber or Haas do that again, and the other team are both score, like two drivers scoring points, like anything can sort of happen at that with such close margins of 7 points and 8 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, 5 points. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy. I mean, we saw it again. Alpine, actually, I think was it last round, this round, two rounds ago last year, got a double points finish. So anything's possible, particularly this late in the season. Drivers starting to check out. I think it's fair to say Ferrari probably has checked out to a certain extent. So. And Williams might be a little more relaxed now that they're in fifth. But, of course, every point counts, like literally every point counts.
So. Don't forget Hamilton's there to enjoy the nice weather. So
I just wanted to point out to you as well, it dawned on me as you were going through the points and who scored what, that even with Adrian Newey as your team principal, Lance Stroll still couldn't finish in the points. So, but I was impressed with Alonso this weekend. I thought he had a relatively stronger performance. So, it's definitely on Racing Bulls. One in the points, one out of the points. Hadjar had a difficult weekend. And, it's not going to be easy in Abu Dhabi at all.
Getting that puncture that late in the race really, really would hurt for him.
Absolutely. He's just lucky he didn't have one of the high-speed sections of the track. Now, the bit that everyone is aware of but has been waiting for, the drivers' standings, mate. Do you want to run us through those?
Are we doing the lot? Are we doing a top 5?
No, we'll go through all the drivers' standings because there's some new entrants and some movements.
So we've got Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto still equal on points at 0, at 20th to 21st. Bortoleto at 19th with 19 points. Gasly 18th with 22 points. Lance Stroll in 17th with 32 points. And Esteban Ocon 32 points equal with Lance Stroll. Yuki Tsunoda with Yuki Tsunoda with 33 points in 15th. Liam Lawson, 38 points in 14th. Bierman, 41 points in 13th. Fernando Alonso, 48 points at 12th. Nico Hulkenberg just dropped out of the top 10, so he's 49 points in 11th. And Isaac Hadjar, 51 points. 10. Carlos Sainz, 9th with 64 points. Alexander Albon, 8th with 73 points. Obviously, he had a really strong start to the season with the late drop of form. Kimi Antonelli, 7th with 150 points. And now this is where things get interesting. So we've got 7th, Kimi Antonelli, 150 points. And in P6, Lewis Hamilton with 152 points in that Ferrari. Charles Leclerc clearing 5th at 230 points. George Russell with 309 in 4th. And now we get to the juicier end. Piastri 3rd with 392 points. Max Verstappen 2nd with 396 points. And Lando Norris still in 1st at 408 points.
So what, outside of the top 3, what out of all of that stands out to you? What are the, if I'm new to Formula One, what are you pointing out to me on this list?
The 6th and 7th, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Antonelli. Big time.
Yep, absolutely. 2 points in it. So very likely that will switch positions.
Yep. And also 5th and 6th, the other thing I'll be pointing out is 5th and 6th in the Ferrari, and then 8th and 9th in the Williams. The driver's standard, Carlos Sainz, obviously in the Williams seat there. That would be the other thing they'd be pointing out, that there was no way we would expect them to be that. I know they're still far away, but that close in the driver's standings as well.
Double top 10 finish for Williams, for me, is probably the biggest surprise of the season. Outside of your man in 11th, Nico Hulkenberg.
Just dropped. He was in 10th.
But there's no way that anyone would have said at the start of the season that Kick Sauber would outpoint Aston Martin, Haas, Racing Bulls and one of the Red Bull cars at all.
If you told me that a Kick Sauber was finishing ahead of a Red Bull in the driver's standings, I'd just scoff. I love Nico, absolutely do, but did not think he was going to have the machinery this year to do anything, let alone get his first podium. Is just massive.
For next show, before we do the season wrap show, which might not be the next show, I'm going to go back and have a listen to our first few shows of the year, because I know for a fact that we said that Kick would get no points. And boy, are we wrong. But that's okay. No, we're not wrong. We've been kind of right.
Kind of right. Yep.
And I'm not sure where we said Alpine would finish, but I feel like we were pretty close with
Probably
that.
Probably bang on with Alpine, to be honest.
I think we were pretty close. I think I thought that Jack Doohan would get some points, but I mean, there was a little bit of hopeful local boy support in that. So
the other thing that does stand out to me is, other than a sprint race, how many podiums has Lewis Hamilton got?
One. None.
None.
One?
None. None. And how many podiums does Carlos Sainz have?
Well, yeah, one.
Two?
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 Third?
He's got two podiums.
Has he?
2 podiums.
I don't remember the other one.
Yeah.
I must have been paying attention. Was it a sprint race?
No.
And
Lewis Hamilton 0.
Well, interestingly as well, this is going to be Charles's fourth winless, podiumless season for Ferrari out of the 7 seasons he's been there.
Winless,
Winless,
yes.
not podiumless, winless.
Not podiumless, winless, yeah.
So it'd be his 4th season. Now, if memory serves me correctly, the man that just stood on the podium this weekend used to drive in a team that was distinctly red in shade.
Yes, he did.
So who made the right move there? But no, they're Ferrari. We know they're in it. So a couple of interesting things there, and there's still plenty that can change, particularly down the order. Lance Stroll, remarkably, if he has a decent weekend, could jump from 17th to, say, like 13th. That'd be amazing. I mean, it's not going to happen, but it'd be amazing. So but there are some changes within that. Obviously, highest rated rookie as well, Kimi Antonelli.
I was so wrong.
That will not change.
No.
But again, we'll have a look at our rookie review as well, because I'm pretty sure we've done a reasonably good job with that as well.
I was very incorrect.
You were, but that's okay. That's okay.
I do hope, and this is probably a little bit petty, but I do hope that Kimi outscores Lewis this weekend and jumps him in the Drivers' Championship.
If it doesn't happen, so there's no new parts coming to any of these cars between now and next weekend. If it doesn't happen, then I question what's happened at Mercedes.
Something's gone terribly
wrong to stop it from happening. So, and to be fair, had he not moved over, slid over, lost control,
took the corner wide
on that last lap, he would be level with Lewis Hamilton on points now, because he dropped 2 points by dropping from 4th to 5th. Anyway, look, we kind of, as we always do, digress into other topics of conversation. That is the point standing. The key part of it, of course, is at the top there, where Max Verstappen has almost overcome a 106-point deficit halfway through the season and is now within a small nosebleed of the top step of the drivers' standings. Norris, Verstappen, and Piastri, all 3 still in contention. Norris very much in the driving seat, which we will get to as we progress through the show. But let's bring it in, the most popular segment of the show, Rhyss Ranks 'em, where he takes us through some mind-boggling grades that he saw from the race. Take it away, mate.
Well, we do have... It'd be good if I was up to speed on where we are. But we do have a few DNFs, so bottom 4 DNFs. Let's roll them. So we've got Nico Hülkenberg, Bierman, Hadjar, and Stroll all DNFing. Gasly, Ocon, Colapinto, all Fs. Bortoletto, given a D to. Hamilton, F. Alex Albon, C-. Sonoda, given a B+. Lawson, B+ as well. Charles Leclerc, a C. Alonso, B+. George Russell, a B-. Antonelli, a B. Norris a B+, and then we've got Sainz, Piastri, and Verstappen all on A+.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think we might need to put some more framework around this for next season because,
Absolutely.
again, against expectation. Now, you've given Ocon an F.
Yes.
Now, if it's against expectation, I would say he's probably got an A+, because we would have expected him to finish in 15th, and he did exactly that.
I was going to say, is that because he didn't DNF?
Gasly, A+, exactly where I expected him to finish. No, but I think you've hit the nail on the head there this week as well. So, some work there to do. I'm wrapped for Carlos Sainz Jr. Did you see his old man? He was firming.
There was still questions around his old man in the questions of Carlos Sainz Jr. going to Williams when he had a few other options and talking about going to Alpine instead. So I think he was trying to push him in another direction. And just how stoked you would be, not only to live up to your word. I think Carlos saying that, he's not there to win races straight away. He's there to rebuild. And now they got 5th in the team's championship. He's got 2 podiums, like first driver in Williams to get multiple podiums for a substantial amount of time. So yeah, it's a crazy turnaround and something you'd love to see.
Now, we had a little bit of news come across our desk just as we were loading things up tonight, which is that silly season, the bit of the Formula One season that we look forward to almost the most, has concluded before it even started. Due to potentially be announced on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, depending upon when you're listening to this. Yuki gone, finished. The salmon has been left out in the sun a little bit too long, and he is away, which makes sense with Red Bull switching, of course, to a Ford power unit, and there's always been that speculation that Red Bull have Yuki there for Honda dollars. Equally, that Lindblad from the F2 is going to step up this weekend, coming in free practice 1 to get some time in the car. Isaac Hadjar will step up. I think that's probably the worst kept secret in the paddock, to partner Max Verstappen next season.
I'm happy for him, ecstatic for him, upset, sad for him, all at the same time.
And that Liam Lawson has been retained for another year at Racing Bulls. And I hear where you're at with it, but as we had spoken about earlier on, it's a different team now with Horner gone. You can see that in the second half of the year. Even, to be fair, I mean, I know Yuki hasn't blown the world away, but he's had some decent performances that he probably wouldn't have got, I don't think, if there'd been a change at Red Bull. He came in with a whole heap of gusto, but, the car caught him out. And you can see that on the backing of, Liam's gone back to Racing Bulls and has more points than Yuki. So more opportunity to build the car for both drivers, albeit there's no question that Max will still be the number 1 at Red Bull for as long as he's there. But it might be a little more balanced, and Isaac might be able to make that work more. And there's really no other options anyway. I mean, it's got to be one of their drivers from those 3, I think. They would be crazy to put Liam back in there. So Isaac's really the only option.
Oh, absolutely. I do have a theory for you, however. So Honda is going to be the sole supplier of power units for Aston Martin with Adrian Newey there.
Yes.
Could that open the door for potentially a Stroll exit and a Yuki into Aston Martin? And now I understand that Stroll has a contract indefinitely. However, what do you think about that? I know I've thrown you on the spot, but could you see that happening?
Well, I just had a look because I was like, oh, you're asking a good question here. I'm wondering if they have a vacancy for a test or reserve driver.
Like a third, reserve driver. Yep.
For next year, and they don't. Formula 2022 FIA World Champion, Formula 2 World Champion Felipe Drugovic is their reserve driver. So, and look, to be brutally honest, I don't think that Yuki would fit that team. I don't mean to make a size pun. There is no way that Daddy Stroll would cop temper tantrum Yuki, which we actually saw this weekend again.
I was going to say, he was back and in live form.
Yeah, 100%. There is no way they would cop that. And if Adrian thought he was worth it, they would have already, made inquiries. And so, yeah.
I do like how you're just referring to temper tantrums like he's not already putting up with his son. So it's
that's
and I guess
that's different though. That's implied.
Yeah, I guess. And I do also suppose that it's not a money thing. So it's not like Aston Martin could be told, "Oh, we're going to pay you $100 million to put Yuki in and kick your son out." And I guess that's
Yeah, and I mean, Honda existed, of course, before and will exist long after. Well, maybe not, but will exist long after certainly Yuki's time on the grid. So
Absolutely.
That did come across, not absolutely confirmed, but I mean, I think all of that is the logical
makes a lot of sense
for next season. So, yeah.
Who has gotten your head this weekend, mate?
So you must be referring to Stupid Is as Stupid Does.
Could be.
There's only one, and this will open up a broader conversation, but there's only one group that get into Stupid Is as Stupid Does, and of course that is McLaren. When you're leading the Drivers' World title and your second driver, who is a challenger to your lead driver for the Drivers' World title, is in the lead of the race, and there's a safety car on lap 7 and every single other car in the field pits and you don't run a split strategy to try and protect one or the other and get an outcome.
You don't roll the dice.
It's not the time of the year to be rolling a dice. Now, they suggested that it was to keep their options open. Now, with the fixed 25-lap limit on tyres and no other real flexibility in the strategy outside of that, the only thing I could interpret keeping the strategy flexible for was in case there was another safety car. Now, I mean, that is an enormously large gamble to make when you're leading the Drivers' World title. So, I don't know. I'm just going to check now. Very unprofessional. But it just
there's just nothing else to say.
So to be fair, I've just looked it up. There were 3 safety cars in the 2024 Qatar Grand Prix. Interestingly enough, it was a first lap multi-car collision involving Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Ocon, and Franco Colapinto. The second and third were deployed due to separate incidents later on. So, but
So what you're saying is the Hulk in this track aren't friends.
No, it's not a good thing.
Hulk smash.
But Colapinto scored as many points this year as he did last year. And for that matter, so did Ocon. I just don't understand the mindset of it at all. I just really don't. You're in control. They're literally in control. All I need to do is say, cool guys, we just need 2 reasonably good weekends in a row and we've got a world champion, one or the other. But instead they make this decision based on I don't know what.
And coming off the back of a DSQ as well, a double DSQ.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. I just don't know. I don't know how they got there. I really don't. And then, and I was actually going to go with papaya rules.
Yep.
As my Stupid Is Stupid Does. But I think that I'm going to hold that just in case they lose the Drivers' World title. So there's a little sneak peek because if they do lose the Drivers' World title to Max, that will be the all-time Stupid Is the Stupid Does. But I just, as you said at the top of the show, it's like they've been getting strategy tips from Ferrari and like they're not gonna, I don't know. I'm not gonna, I'll spoil later segments, but it's the dumbest thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not stupid, but it is to me. It's something that I can't believe that they managed to do. I just can't believe they managed to fuck it up that easily. Like that, they literally just, and then they caught the safety car, so they couldn't even make a change in their decision, and it was all terrible.
Yeah, it was all terrible, and then having to come back out in traffic and dealing with tyres and disappointing and speechless, as Oscar said. That's all. I was just looking at some, trying to find another quote there, but speechless was pretty much it. To not have left this weekend, to be completely in control like they were, to not have this weekend with Oscar behind Max in the Drivers' Championship. I did not, was not on my bingo cards.
No, not at all.
Not after watching the sprint, not after watching the sprint quali, sprint, and then the qualifying. It just wasn't on my bingo cards.
Yeah, no, not at all. Which leads us into the Reddit files, mate. You've been once again wading in the underworld of junk that is the internet for Formula One on Reddit. What have you found out? You sent me something which just blew my mind. So I'm hoping that you're going to cover that off in this week's Reddit files.
No, absolutely, I am diving deep down. Now, I'm not going to say who posted this because it is a wild, crazy theory. However, live 2 minutes ago that I was just checking, on the Formula One website, under Lando Norris's driver statistics, he is listed as a world champion. He's got one world championship under his belt.
This blew my mind when I had to go and fact check this myself.
I
blew my mind when you sent it to me. I'm like, no, surely not.
I did the same thing. I even screen recorded myself checking it because I was like, this isn't fabricated.
This is on Formula1.com, the official Formula One website.
Under Lando Norris says he has one world championship under his belt. Now, you did ask me a good question, and you were like, "Oh, could it be referring to F2? Could it refer to other things?" So I did check that as well, and no, it's not. Otherwise, other drivers would also have this. There's only one driver that's got this listed that's inaccurate, and it is Lando. On this Reddit post, which is a little bit left-winded, but that's why I love the deep dives. Reading it word from word, pulled from Reddit. All right, strap in, because today's episode is going full r/F1 conspiracy hour. Smile a bit. We're talking about, hang on 2 seconds, that is not the one. There it is. There we go. Sorry. So it's a bit difficulties. So the F1 website is showing Lando Norris as a world championship, and it isn't just strange. It feels like someone loosened a bolt and a whole chunk of the sports machinery fell out in public. Let's say the quiet part out loud. What if the driver's title isn't won on track, but assigned in a room we'll never see? Every season we pretend the championship comes down to pace, strategy, and wheel-to-wheel battles. But what if the FIA, Liberty Media, the teams, and maybe even the broadcasters already know who the champion will be before a wheel is turned? And what if Lando being listed as a world champion wasn't a mistake, but the wrong year's pre-approved champion list slipping online? Why would Lando be the chosen one? Think about the narrative. Young British star, Netflix darling, massive social media presence, marketable, clean cut, and sponsor friendly. McLaren's golden redemption arc, if Formula One wanted to script a changing of the guard, Lando is the perfect face. So was this a technical error, or the first crack in the illusion that the championship is earned rather than allocated? The meetings we'll never hear about, that you have to wonder. How many closed-door conversations happen between teams and Liberty Media? How often are story arcs discussed before a season even starts? Does each team know their place for the year? And more importantly, was 2025 the year Lando was already promised the title? If so, the website simply showed what the real script already says. The question nobody wants answered was the championship ever truly in the driver's hands, or are they just performers in a theatre where the ending is already written? Because if the F1 website is accidentally showing us the script, then maybe let them race has always really meant let them act. Anyway, posting this before the mods or the FIA legal team kick down my door.
Oh, I must admit, I've just gone onto the site now and it's just been taken down.
You joking?
No, Lando Norris World Championships 0. Bow, bow.
Now, I do have this legitimately.
Yeah, I've got it too. Absolutely.
Screen recorded on my phone. It was there just a minute ago.
Yeah, I've got a photo of it. I've put it in now. Yeah, there it is there. One world championship right there. And I've got a screenshot of it because I said after you sent it to me, I'm like, no way, I've got to check this out for myself. And it was there. It's been taken down now. So no longer world champion. So, but I did equally, just out of interest, just in case this was right, I did actually check on Max Verstappen, and they haven't put him to 5 yet.
Okay.
So, which means all I can conclude is that Oscar's going to win. Because if they haven't done, oh no, he's got 0 as well. What? Surely there's somebody, and that is, I actually thought that that it would be wilder than that down in the West. About conspiracy theories, we noticed. So we've jumped on this bandwagon a little bit, haven't we? But the first pit stops, Oscar's in the lead, 3 point something seconds. Lando comes into pit lane, 1.8 second pit stop. Fastest pit stop of the season. And of course, Oscar, left-hand front wheel nut issues. Again.
I do need to ask though, who pitted first?
Well, Oscar did.
Yeah. That first pit stop's never been an issue. The entire season, first pit stop's never been an issue until Oscar was back in front.
I reckon if you dive down the trail, you will find that every time Oscar's been in the lead, the left-hand wheel nut has been an issue first. And when he's not been in the lead, it's been an issue second. Because what it meant was that he got out into some traffic and Lando didn't.
That's what I mean. It's...
we love a conspiracy.
And funnily enough, and you did call this, whilst Oscar was in no contention of winning the race, there was no pit stop issues, no stuck left-hand front wheel nut. And then magically, the weekend that Oscar is back in front, and obviously we don't see this in the sprint because they don't pit, but first time we see Oscar in the lead of a race for some weeks, there is magically an issue again.
No, it's not a conspiracy. That it's absolutely fact. Because that's the easiest way for the team to influence the outcome that they want, is to just do it in the pit stops.
I did want to add some things, but I also wanted to fully pull. When I saw the post that Lando was on as a world championship, and I went into this Reddit page, I just wanted to pull it word from word. And the title of the F1, the title of that thread is the F1 the modern day WWE?
You know what though? That's kind of good. Imagine if it was. Imagine if it was all scripted, and had Brock Lesnar getting into a Formula One car, sitting on top of the car because he doesn't fit into the cockpit, turning the wheel.
We're going to talk about Formula One, or is that Donkey Kong driving a Mario Kart? That would literally.
And you get Stone Cold there, having 8 beers on his way around the track, just smashing the cans on his head. The Hardy brothers come in, racing 2 it'd be more like
that's the whole thing's Mario Kart. As soon as you said Brock Lesnar and a Formula One car, all I imagined was Donkey Kong in a Mario Kart. That's all I could think.
At least he wouldn't have any neck issues, because that is thick. He wouldn't be doing any of that sideways.
No, he wouldn't need to. Probably need to lean out his neck a little bit.
No.
Anyway,
I did want to point out that it's not the Bag McLaren show. I'm just letting everyone know that because it comes across that way. But let's just say that I did thoroughly enjoy Red Bull kicking McLaren while they were down by taking their chief strategist onto the podium to accept the team's trophy. And just sort of, display her out there. And it's not the first time that she's been up there, not at all.
No,
but I thought the timing of it was not coincidental and absolutely brilliant, because if you can't throw a sledge in sport, then when can you throw one?
They play, as you've put rightly so in the past, they play the games better than anyone.
4D chess.
Absolutely, they
4D.
do. I do want to bring up as well the interviews that Max has had. And I love Max. I absolutely love Max's media presence. But on multiple occasions, he said, they gave me the win this weekend. They came out and said that. He's also come out and said that if he had the car that McLaren had, the Drivers' Championship would have been wrapped up races ago. As it was in previous years. His media presence now really is great.
And then Lando came out and said Max doesn't know what Max doesn't know, like that schoolboy thing we were talking about earlier in the year. So he's well and truly living rent free.
Yeah, absolutely
rent free.
also what brought to mind as well with Max saying this was that Lando Norris in 2021 had said to Lewis Hamilton, or about Lewis Hamilton, that he should win every race because he's in the fastest car. Well, what is your excuse?
Ferrari mechanics they hired. I must admit, I am very concerned for Oscar's future at McLaren. Just as an aside, I know he's contracted, but he would it's early rule out. He would never go to Red Bull because there's no point in going to Red Bull unless Max had a timeline on a time limit on his horizon. Like, I'm gonna go and do sim racing in GT3 in 2027, so I'm here for 12 more months, and then we need another main driver. But I think, and I think we'll do a deep dive into papaya rules. But this, we said that again. We've got to go back. I've got to go back and listen to us because we're the best. We're literally the best. But this papaya rules thing is going to wreck McLaren, and it's going to wreck McLaren in a way where they've tried not to wreck McLaren by having two title contenders, like what happened in the past when we go back to Senna and Prost. It didn't happen when they had Coulthard and Hakkinen. I don't know how they managed that a little bit better there. I don't remember it happening there. Maybe it did. But they've literally created this situation for themselves. They've got drivers with clauses in contracts where they can't favour one driver over the other. And that's conducive to nobody winning. And that's potentially where we're going to get to in 7 days' time. Could be sitting here having this conversation, seeing Max overturn, I think, the biggest or second biggest margin in history to take out his fifth driver's title.
And the biggest fumble of a World Drivers' Championship in forever.
Absolutely. Dominant team, dominant car, dominant drivers.
Just wrapped up the team championship halfway through the year.
Just wrecking themselves by not getting out of the way and just supporting a driver. Now, and I haven't had the chance to do this, but had they supported Oscar for those two races where they made decisions that potentially changed the results of the race, would Oscar be equal in front? Like, where would he be now, and what would the situation look like in terms of where he is to Max? So coming to this last race, would they still have first and second in the championship? And I'll have a look at that. But I just think that this set of papaya rules circumstance, it fit the narrative to get the team's championship, but it doesn't do anything outside of that. And you're never going to keep two drivers capable of winning the world championship happy at a team when that's the way that you treat it. I guess the closest we've probably had of recent time was Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, where Nico won because Hamilton was fighting with was it with Max? Too early for Max.
Yeah, too early for Max. They were fighting each other.
So but again, and then the dynamic falls apart. You know, Nico retired, went on, won another world title or two. So I don't know, we'll digest all of that if and when it happens, but I just think this papaya rules thing that they've created in the best spirit of competition isn't what you can do at top tier sport in what is a team game, but is absolutely an individual sport.
Yeah, I think we're going to see sort of what was happening when Max first came to Red Bull with Daniel Ricciardo. We had Daniel Ricciardo in the number one seat as he was under Sebastian Vettel, and then sort of stepped up, and we had this junior come in across from AlphaTauri back then.
Yep.
Come across, and then they spent the year fighting each other. So the first season they were close, and the second season they ended up fighting each other and crashing, and they had
ran into one another.
Correct. Yeah. Went up the back of the other one, and yeah, just I think seeing what we've seen this year, I think we'll see a disgruntled driver, and I can't see it being Lando that walks, but I also don't want to see Oscar go somewhere and his talent have what happens to Daniel. So I'm with you. I can't see there's no happy ending here for anyone.
No, not at all.
There is not a happy. The only happy ending is Max wins. because happy ending for Max. Every other ending isn't a happy ending for anyone. So we see Lando win, obviously not happy for the other two, but then that creates that divide within the team because of the questions that I think are going to be asked depending on where Oscar's sitting on the grid coming into Abu Dhabi. I just feel like obviously if Max is leading the race, Oscar's in third or fourth, like I was saying previously, and Lando's behind him, there will be team orders to swap that around because Oscar's no longer in contention and Lando can win it that way.
Well, let's move into that final segment of the show as we approach the hour. The machinations for next weekend. So Max needs to win, and Oscar needs to win. That's their modus operandi. They just need to go out and try to win. If Max wins, Lando needs to finish fourth or lower for Max to be crowned world champion. If Oscar wins, Lando needs to finish sixth or lower. So that ties very heavily into what you just spoke about. Now, I wanted to say Lando cruises into this weekend coming, being able to manage his weekend. But in my mind, that puts him in a mindset that could put him into trouble because complacency breeds mistakes. And albeit they've had a shocker this weekend just gone, they're playing the game against a team that has done this for the last 5 years in a row. They are well trained. And Max has even said when they asked him at the presser just before this weekend, if he wins his fifth, what will it mean to him? And he just said, it'll be nice, but if I don't win it, it doesn't change my life. For Lando, however, it does change his life because he goes from being a Formula One driver to a Formula One world champion.
Same as Oscar.
And there's with new regulations next year, which we've spoken about before, there is no guarantee that McLaren are going to dominate or be in a championship winning position again next season. And we've already seen them come back to the field this season.
I was going to say, and if we're going on the team strategy as well, we've seen that really fall over. So if they don't have the car and it's relying on team strategy and internal teamwork, like we've seen what happened with Red Bull, they don't have that experience either.
Yeah. So, I mean, the ball's firmly in Lando's court, but the problem for Lando is that Max owns the land that the court's built on. And it's not going to be as straightforward as just rolling the car out of the garage, rolling up to the podium and accepting his trophy, because equally his own teammate is not going to want to help him until potentially the very late stages of the race. So I can't see a situation, though, where Lando, unless it's like this weekend, is going to be lower than fourth.
So I had this idea that would Lando prefer, and obviously you always want to prefer to be in first and drive away from everyone. If he had the opportunity, and this is where you were talking about complacency, would he go out and not try and get pole and try and maybe sit in at about fourth and try and cruise around into that sort of area to guarantee the championship? Because then he's not fighting Max and he's not fighting Oscar and he's not up there. But then he drops himself into a concerning spot where the people around him on the starts and on the tracks, there seems to be some carnage that happens in that sort of midfield that he might get sort of caught up in.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one because I think you really want to be out front and in control of your own destiny. So I think you'll want to qualify a pole like any race driver would, and I think you'll want to try and drive away with it. Bar the first 3 kilometers of the race, if he can get away and move on, then he's not going to have anything to worry about. What he has got to worry about is the nothing to lose mentality of the other two drivers competing for the title, because as it stands, both of them don't have to care about anything other than trying to win the race and then letting however the cards fall after that fall, because they can't control where Lando finishes. The only person who could control where Lando finishes is Yuki Tsunoda. But as we saw in the V8 Supercars on the weekend, if you did watch it, hopefully we don't see that type of activity in this format of racing, and I'm sure there'll be people who shout me down about that it didn't happen and rah, rah, rah. But anyway, I watched it and it looked like what it looked like. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I think Lando will want to lead from the front, literally take pole, drive off, get a good start, and bugger off into the distance, because then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's away, and there's just so much that they shouldn't. McLaren shouldn't be in this position. They should have had the World Drivers' Championship tied up races ago. They've had a DSQ 3 weeks out from the 3 races out from the finale. We're going into Abu Dhabi where anything could happen. They've had mechanical problems. They've had DNFs. They've had DSQs. Like, it's going to be a wild race. I'm excited for it. I was saying that I was hoping it was going to go into this sort of spot. So we have that 3-way title battle, and I can't remember a 3-way title battle in Abu Dhabi, like going into the last race. I don't think I've ever watched one. So I'm very, very excited, but also so much can happen to any of the cars contending.
Did say that there's only one man who could overturn this deficit, and it is. I was just having a look back. I think it was in show 21 after the Horner show. We said, do Max Verstappen. Changes could happen. This is right around the time we suggested that Red Bull were going to sell, which now in hindsight looks completely ridiculous. But that's okay. We were doing what we were doing at the time with the information we had at the time. But I'm with you. Like, I'm going to get up to watch it live. I'm not going to be doing the replay.
It's a 1 a.m.
The 1 a.m. kickoff
race
for us.
Yep.
But.
And anyone at home saying that we just stay up and watch it don't know us, so shut up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, 1 a.m. God, it's only a couple of hours before I get up, so it's okay. But yeah, look, I think, I don't know, I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous because I woke up this morning like early thinking, I've got to get up. I've got to watch I've got to find it. Liverpool played this morning and I had to watch the Formula One before I watched that game because I had to know what happened.
Is there still soccer on?
Yeah, well, apparently. And I don't know. I have this feeling that Red Bull will not make a mistake. And so if McLaren slip up ever so slightly, they're in big trouble.
They're not doing well. Like I said, they had a double DSQ. They've had horrible strategy calls. So it's the trajectory and the patterns aren't in their favor at all.
So anyway, we'll see. We're nattering a bit here now, but it's gonna be huge.
It is gonna be huge.
It's gonna be the biggest race in some years, probably rivaling on No Mikey No that weekend. So,
final question before we close out the show: who takes it? Who takes it?
Head says that Lando should. Heart says Max. I can't see Oscar winning it. I just outside of tragedy, I can't see Lando finishing further back than 6th. And if Lando finishes in 6th and Max finishes 2nd, Max still wins.
Correct. Yeah.
So we need a non-Max finish with Oscar in 1st and Lando in 6th or beyond. And I just can't see it. As much as I would love that to happen, I just can't see it happening. I think the chance of Max is probably the bigger one.
Yeah.
But I think Lando will get it.
I'm with you. Statistically, heads are saying Lando, because even with the fumble, finishing P4 is still going to get him that. So head says Lando, heart says not Lando.
Yeah. Absolutely. So there you go. So I guess we'll find all that out in 7 short days' time. We will be doing our post-Abu Dhabi podcast, and we will know all and break it down for you. And then I think we'll probably still schedule a post-season pod after that one before we take a well-earned break. 32 episodes in 1 year is a lot of effort, mate. So that's what we will... 32, is that where we'll be at? 31 episodes, big effort throughout the year. But to those of you who've supported us so far, thank you very much. We've got a lot planned for next year. I'm not going to read our closing remarks this one. It's late. It's been a long day. We wanted to get it done. So we'll see you in 7 days' time for a wrap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And hopefully we'll be talking about something as exciting as this round has been. Thank you, mate, as always, for
Thank
joining
you.
me and talking all things Formula One. That is us done for another episode of The Top Step with Rhyss and Stu.
Well, that's the checkered flag. We're at the end of the race. Thanks for tuning in. You kept up the pace. Rhyss and Stu are signing off today, but don't forget